For more than 2,000 years, one question has refused to disappear. Where was Atlantis? Explorers have crossed oceans, archaeologists have searched forgotten islands, and scientists have scanned the deepest parts of the Atlantic, all hoping to uncover the legendary lost civilization. Countless books, documentaries, and theories have claimed to reveal its true location. Some placed Atlantis near Greece, others beneath the Atlantic Ocean, while a few believed it survived in places as distant as Antarctica. Yet despite centuries of searching, not a single piece of undeniable evidence has ever been found. Every discovery has raised even more questions than answers. But perhaps the greatest mistake was believing that Atlantis was simply a place waiting to be discovered. What if generations of explorers misunderstood the story from the very beginning? What if the true mystery was never hidden beneath the sea at all? Because the only person who ever claimed to know exactly what Atlantis was also left behind, a story unlike anything else in ancient history. And strangely enough, it begins not with a city, but with a philosopher. That philosopher was Plato, one of the greatest thinkers of ancient Greece. Around 360 BC, he introduced Atlantis in two famous dialogues, Timaeus and Critias. Unlike myths about gods or legendary heroes, Plato presented the story in a surprisingly serious way. He claimed it had been passed down through generations before finally reaching him. According to his account, Atlantis was a powerful island civilization that existed long before his own lifetime. Its rulers controlled a mighty empire, its cities displayed remarkable engineering, and its people possessed extraordinary wealth. Plato even described the island's enormous rings of land and water with astonishing precision. Yet one detail stands out above everything else. He spent far more time describing Atlantis than explaining its destruction. It almost feels as if the island itself was never the true focus of the story. So why include so many specific details if Atlantis was only a legend? If Plato wanted his readers to believe Atlantis had truly existed, he gave them one very specific clue. He wrote that the island lay beyond the Pillars of Hercules, the ancient name for what we now call the Strait of Gibraltar. To the Greeks, this narrow passage marked the edge of the known world. Beyond it stretched the vast Atlantic Ocean, a place surrounded by mystery, danger, and endless imagination. For centuries, explorers interpreted Plato's words literally. Ships sailed west in search of the lost civilization, convinced that somewhere beyond Gibraltar, its ruins still rested beneath the sea. Entire expeditions were launched because of this single sentence. At first glance, the description seems surprisingly precise. Yet the closer historians examined Plato's account, the stranger it became. Because after revealing where Atlantis supposedly lay, he suddenly stopped giving useful directions. And that missing detail may be the biggest clue of all. Plato described Atlantis with extraordinary detail. He explained its kings, magnificent temples, concentric canals, fertile plains, and the immense wealth of its people. He even described how the island's harbors were built and how its rulers governed their powerful empire. But when it came to its exact location, everything suddenly changed. He never provided coordinates. He never mentioned distances that could be verified. There was no map, no neighboring islands, and no landmarks beyond the Pillars of Hercules. It almost feels as though he wanted readers to begin searching, only to leave them without a destination. Was this simply because the story had been imperfectly preserved, or was it intentional from the very beginning? The more carefully historians studied Plato's writings, the harder it became to ignore one unsettling possibility. Maybe Atlantis was never meant to be found on a map, because the island itself was never the true message. For centuries, Plato's words inspired one expedition after another. Historians, explorers, archaeologists, and treasure hunters all believed the answer was waiting somewhere beyond the Strait of Gibraltar. Some searched among the Greek islands, convinced Atlantis had simply been misplaced by history. Others turned toward the Atlantic Ocean, hoping that advanced technology would reveal an ancient city hidden beneath the seafloor. As new discoveries appeared, fresh theories followed. Santorini, the Azores, southern Spain, even Antarctica were all proposed as possible locations. Every generation became convinced it was finally close to solving the mystery. Yet every promising discovery eventually collapsed under closer examination. No ruins matched Plato's description. No evidence proved the existence of his lost empire. Even satellite images, sonar scans, and deep-sea expeditions failed to uncover anything that could be called Atlantis with certainty. The search continued, but the answers always remained just beyond humanity's reach. As the centuries passed, another possibility slowly emerged. What if Plato had based Atlantis on a real disaster rather than a real city? Around 1600 BC, a massive volcanic eruption destroyed much of the island of Thera, known today as Santorini. The explosion was one of the largest in recorded history, sending enormous tsunamis across the Aegean Sea and devastating the powerful Minoan civilization on nearby Crete. The disaster would have been remembered for generations, making it easy to understand why some historians connect it to Atlantis. But others strongly disagree. Plato clearly placed Atlantis beyond the Pillars of Hercules, far from the Aegean Sea, and the timeline differs by many centuries. Once again, the evidence appears convincing at first, only to raise even more questions. Perhaps Atlantis is not one forgotten civilization, but a story woven together from several real events. And that possibility changes the mystery more than most people realize. For generations, one assumption shaped almost every search for Atlantis. People believed Plato was describing a real place that had simply been lost to history. But there is one important fact that is often forgotten. Plato was not a historian. He was a philosopher. His famous works, Timaeus and Critias, were written as philosophical dialogues, where fictional stories often served to explain deeper truths about politics, morality, and human nature. Throughout his writings, Plato regularly used imagined situations to explore real ideas instead of recording historical events. Even Socrates, the main character in many of Plato's dialogues, often guided discussions through hypothetical examples rather than eyewitness accounts. That raises an uncomfortable question. Why should Atlantis be treated differently? Perhaps the island itself was never the true subject of the story. Perhaps Plato was not trying to preserve history at all. Maybe he created Atlantis as a mirror, allowing every future civilization to recognize its own strengths, weaknesses, and dangerous ambitions. If Atlantis was never meant to be read as ordinary history, then its destruction takes on an entirely different meaning. Plato described a civilization blessed with extraordinary wealth, advanced engineering, fertile land, and limitless natural resources. It possessed everything a society could possibly desire. But as generations passed, its rulers became increasingly proud, greedy, and obsessed with expanding their empire. They stopped valuing justice and wisdom, believing their power made them untouchable. According to Plato, this moral corruption not earthquakes, volcanoes, or floods, became the true reason Atlantis was destroyed. The island disappeared only after its people abandoned the virtues that had once made them great. Suddenly, Atlantis no longer feels like the story of one forgotten civilization. It becomes a warning that every powerful society should remember, because the greatest threat to an empire rarely comes from outside its borders. It begins quietly, from within. Long before anyone notices, the collapse has already begun. More than 2,000 years have passed since Plato first wrote about Atlantis, yet the search has never truly ended. Few ancient stories have inspired so many expeditions, theories, and debates across so many centuries. During the Age of Exploration, sailors believed Atlantis waited somewhere beyond the horizon. Later, archaeologists searched ruined civilizations, hoping one discovery would finally solve the mystery. Today, satellites scan the ocean floor, while artificial intelligence compares ancient texts with modern geography. Every generation has approached the legend using the most advanced technology available. Yet the result has always been the same. The mystery survives. Perhaps that is exactly why Atlantis remains so fascinating. It has become far more than the story of a lost island. It represents humanity's endless desire to explain the unknown, to believe that somewhere beyond the edge of certainty, one final discovery is still waiting to be made. Perhaps this is why Plato never gave anyone enough information to find Atlantis. The island itself was never the destination. The lesson was, every civilization believes its greatest achievements will last forever. Every empire eventually convinces itself that it has become too powerful to fail. Yet history tells a different story. The strongest societies rarely collapse overnight. They slowly lose the values that made them strong in the first place. That is why Atlantis still matters today. Not because it may be hidden beneath the ocean, but because its story continues to reflect humanity itself. So what do you believe? Was Atlantis once a real civilization? Or was Plato leaving behind the greatest warning in history? Share your theory in the comments. I read every one of them. And if you enjoy exploring forgotten civilizations, ancient myths, and history's greatest mysteries, subscribe and continue the journey with the other stories waiting here on the channel. Perhaps the next mystery will change the way you see history forever.